divided by number of frames. And now you will get this rotation. Hey everyone, welcome to my new tutorial. Today we are going to create this space animation and I really hope you will enjoy this one. And if you do, please don't forget to leave that like. And if you want to learn Blender in the most effective way, be sure to check out my courses. I carefully designed them to take you from beginner skills through local illustration all the way to full character illustration. And we have a little bit of sculpting there, also hard surface modeling. So if you're interested, please check out the link in the description. Now let's jump right into empty Blender file, and first of all let's select the light and the cube, press X and delete. And now let's press Shift A and we'll create mesh and icosphere. And let's expand this panel here and let's increase the subdivision to something like 3. That should be enough. And now let's tab into the edit mode. Let's go for face select by pressing 3 and just select some of these patches here. So we're just gonna rotate around the sphere, and by holding Shift we'll add to the selection. And we're basically selecting some patches for craters. Okay, I think this will do for now. So let's just press Alt E and extrude faces along normals, like this. Now press period on a keyboard and choose individual origins. You can also do that here. And press S to scale those down. Now press I for inset. And Alt E again to extrude faces along normals, and let's go inside like this, and we can again press S and scale these down. Okay, let's switch this back to median point, and now we can tab out and press Ctrl 2 to add subdivision surface modifier, right click and shade smooth. So let's look from the side by pressing 3 on a numpad, and this is how the planet will look from the side. So let's create a rocket here. So let's press Shift A and we'll create a circle. Now let's go ahead and modify the vertices to only 12, this should be enough. And now press G then Z and move this up right here. So this will be the origin point of the rocket. And now tap into the edit mode. Let's go for vertex select here, or press 1 and press S to scale this down right about here. And now we can press E then Z to extrude this down and press S to scale. Now Alt click the top loop again, press E then Z and extrude this up. And now again we'll press S to scale this down like this. And now Alt click this loop again and press Ctrl B to bevel. And you can edit the number of cuts with the mouse wheel, and we'll create a shape like this for the rocket. Now let's select the top here and press M and merge at center so it's nice and pointy. And now let's Alt click this loop here. And I want to press Ctrl B and create one more bevel with just one segment, so we have some more geometry right here. Now Alt click down there, press F to fill, and now press Shift D to duplicate, press Z to move it slightly down like this, and continue extrusion down this way. So this will be like an exhaust, so press S to scale it down. Now press I to inset and E to extrude. If you want to see better, you can always enable X-ray view right here. So this is what we got here. Now I want to separate this top part so we can have like a panel gap there. So let's Alt click this loop right here and we'll press V to rip these vertices off. Right click to release in place, and we'll press F to fill and press G then Z and move it slightly down so there's a little bit of gap. And now Alt click the loop above and press F to fill as well. Now just to make sure everything is okay, let's press A and Shift N to recalculate normals. And now let's tab out. I will switch off the X-ray view, and we can now add subdivision modifier. But before we do, let's add some supporting loops. So let's go to the modifiers and we'll add bevel modifier like this. And you will see with the angle of 30 degrees, it will hit the exact edges that we need. So just increase the segments to 2 and reduce the amount slightly. So we have these nice support loops there. And now if you add subdivision surface modifier, you'll see you get this nice smoothing there. This gap here is a little bit too large, so we'll probably need to bring this closer. So let's tap into the edit mode, press 3 for side view, and now just click away to the select, and you can press L hovering over some of these segments, and just press G then Z and bring them down like this. And let's do the same here. So I'll click away, press L hovering over this, press G then Z and move it up. Just like this. And now we'll create the wings here. So let's go for edge select by pressing 2. Select this edge on the side, and let's just press P and separate the selection. That will create a new object right here. So we can tab out, select the new object, tab into the edit mode, and let's look from the side again by pressing 3. Let's just go for vertex select here and select these two and press E to extrude, S to scale down, R to rotate, and now let's do one more extrusion and just scale it down like this. Don't worry about this. First of all, the object has bevel and subdivision because it was separated from the main object. So we can just remove the bevel and keep the subdivision, but we can increase this to 2, let's say. And now we can press A to select all and E to extrude like this. Okay, and now let's go for face select. And with the X-ray active, select the face here in the back, press X and delete, and that will get rid of that curvature there. And now let's go back to edge select, alt click this loop. First of all, let's press S then X to expand this a little bit, so it's like a wider there. And now let's look from the side again and let's extrude a little bit and press S to scale it up so it goes a little bit inside of the rocket like this. And now let's look from the front, and you will see this is a little bit off kilter because we have the origin point here, but we extrude it from the plane outside, so we'll need to move this back a little bit. So press G, then X, and move it here so the axis goes through the middle there. So that's the first step. And now we can enable some mirroring. So let's add the mirror modifier. I'll just write mirror here and choose one from the list. And now we can actually display all 4 wings or fins using the same mirror modifier. We'll just need to do some adjustments. So first of all, let's enable Y and let's leave the X on, even though right now it does nothing. But now we can press R, then Z and rotate this 45 degrees. And then if you press Ctrl A and apply the rotation, you will see now we are mirroring through X and Y as well. So let's look from the side here, and now a little bit of window. So let's select the rocket here, tab into the edit mode, and first of all I want to make this more pointy, so press K for a knife tool, and let's just click here, press C for cut through and A to snap to angle, confirm and press enter. So we have a little bit of a more like a pointy end there. And now let's disable X-ray view, select this edge right here, hold Shift S and snap cursor to select it. Now we can tab out, let's press Shift A and we'll add a circle. Now tap into the edit mode and press S to scale it down, and R, then Y and 90 to rotate 90 degrees. Something like this will work just fine, but I think we can bring this lower like here. So go back to the edit mode, press G, then X and move it slightly outside, and now press E, then X and extrude it inside here. Alt click this loop, press F to fill, I to inset, E to extrude again, and one more inset by pressing I and G, then X to move this outside like this. And now we can tab out, hold Shift, select the rocket, and transfer the same bevel modifier here, so we have those support loops as well, and we can transfer the subdivision surface modifier as well. But be careful about the angle because this had 12 segments, so the 30 degrees will not be enough. We need to increase to something like 40 or 45. And now right click and shade smooth, and we can do the same for the rest of the model. So right click and shade smooth everywhere here. Okay, now I'll press S to make this a little bit larger, and let's add mirror modifier here as well. Like this, though I will need to use the eyedropper tool and choose the rocket body to display it on the other side. And now basically we can just hold Shift S, reset the cursor to world origin, choose the pivot point as 3D cursor, and now we are able to rotate this around the 3D cursor. So let's press Alt D, press R, then Z and 90 degrees, and we'll switch the X off and Y on for the second pair. So we have these nice windows here, and we can select everything and press Ctrl P to parent everything to the rocket body. And now we can create some exhaust fumes here. So let's press 3 for side view again. Let's press Shift A and we'll add a circle here, and 12 should be enough again. So press G then Z and move this up in the object mode. Make sure you're back into the medium point, pivot point, and now scale this down using S press E then Z to extrude, scale it down a little bit, now extrude again, scale it up here, and here we want to scale it down again, and again like this, and press F to fill. So this will be like our rocket fume shape. So we can now tab out and press Ctrl 2 to add subdivision surface modifier, right click and shade smooth. Now we can make it more sharper here. So if you wish, you can press Ctrl R to add a loop cut right here, and that will make it more sharp. And here we can bring this closer. So it looks like this, a little bit more stylized, and we can hold shift, select the rocket and parent this again. And now let's press 3 for side view again. And to better manipulate and animate the rocket, we can add one empty. So let's press Shift A, let's add empty plane axis, press G then Z, move it up right about here in the middle of the rocket. And we can just select the rocket body, hold Shift and parent it to the empty. So now we can just press R and rotate and press G to move the empty right above the planet like this. Now I really like this angle here, so we can press Ctrl and Alt and hit 0, and they'll move the camera to this exact view right here. And we can press Ctrl B to limit the render preview only to camera bounds like this. And now let's go to the render settings. I will use cycles, switch to GPU and enable the noising. And of course for the animation, I will start at somewhere like 64 samples for the preview animation. And right now, if I preview the rendered, you will see only this part here is rendered, though it's a little bit dark. So let's press Shift A and we'll add a sunlight here. And let's increase the strength in the light settings here and press R to rotate this a little bit. And we can press R then Z to rotate on the Z axis as well. But I think this will look fine from the side, maybe a little bit like this. And for the preview purposes, it will be enough. But now I will switch back to the solid view and let's bring this up a little bit. And let's take care of the animation. Now, most of the time when I create animation, I use keyframes and stuff like that. But here I just want to create a simple loop with some rotations. And for that, we can easily use drivers. If you're not familiar with the concept, let's press N to expand the side panel. And basically all of these values can be driven. That means that you can use different computation, different values, different object positions and constraints to drive the values of the object. And the quick way to add driver is using the hash sign. So for example, when I want to drive the rotation of the planet, let's have a look from the side here. And I want to rotate the planet around the x-axis. So for the x rotation, I can just write the hash and enter frame. And they'll basically take the frame value and use it as the rotation angle. Of course, this will be too fast, but if I play it back, you'll see the planet is rotating. And of course, we can do some interpolations and some calculations. And let me go to the output settings and switch the FPS to 30 and here to 240 frames. So we get like 8 seconds animation. And I want to rotate one full circle for the 240 frames. So we can use different formulas here in the drivers. But of course, we need to enter the angles in radians. So pi is for the half a circle and 2 pi or tau is for the full circle. So we need to calculate the angle for each of the frames. So let's multiply this by tau divided by number of frames. And now you will get this rotation. Of course, I want this to look like the rocket is flying around this small planet, so I need to rotate the other way, which is very easy to do. I will just use minus here. And now I have the full circle, so this will loop seamlessly. And if you change, for example, number of frames, you can just change the number of frames here in the driver formula and they'll work. Now, for the rocket itself, I won't animate the empty. This is just for the placement. But now, since this is parented to the empty, I can animate the z-axis, and no matter how the empty is rotated, this will always rotate around the z-axis. So I can use another driver, and basically I will use the same thing here. The only difference is I will do the positive value of frame, and I will divide the tau by only 120, and this way we're getting a little bit faster movement, twice the speed of the planet actually. So we have some movement here. Now, what about these fumes? I want them to wiggle a little bit. An easy way would be to insert the Z-scale keyframe and do some animation noise. But again, we can use drivers for this, and we can use the sine function, you know, to cycle through values between -1 and 1. So here we can do, don't forget about the hash sign, we can do the sine value of the frame. And let's see what that'll give us. And right here, you will see this is now cycling between -1 and 1. So it's not exactly what I wanted, but it's a great start. So we just need to, first of all, multiply this by the value we want this to go. So for example, 0.1. So the amplitude of the wiggle is not so large. And now we'll just compensate so we don't go below 0. So we'll just add 0.85 or 0.8, let's say. And now we get something like this. Okay, so. And I think this looks quite okay. So one last thing to do for the animation, I want some camera wiggle. And for this one, I will just do it manually. So let's just select the camera frame here and let's hit I over the location here. And let's press Shift D here in the timeline to move it to the frame 240 as well. And now I will just enable recording, press G, and do these really small adjustments here and there to introduce a little bit of that camera shake. Okay. And yeah, basically that's our animation. Don't forget to disable this. And now if we preview this rendered, we have something like that in place. So let's give this some materials, some colors. I'll press Shift A and let's add a plane. Press G, then X, move it back. Press R, then Y, and 90 degrees. And let's scale it up so we have some background here. And let's add a new material to the background. Let's make it darker and maybe violet a little bit, like this. And for the planet, let's create a new material and let's create something like a Martian color. And also let's increase the roughness. And now for the rocket, let's create a metallic material and create a new material slot. Tap into the edit mode, click away, and again we'll press L over the front part and here in the back and create a new material, hit assign. Now I'll change this to red color and reduce the roughness like this. And for the fins, I will go red as well. And for these, let's keep the metal material. Tap into the edit mode and we can hit Ctrl+ to expand the selection, create a new material slot, hit assign, new material, and let's go black here and reduce the roughness so it's nice and glossy. And for the fumes, let's create an emission material. So let's switch this right there. And let's go something really strong so we can affect the planet as well. So maybe something like 50 here. And let's give this like an orange color here so it nicely affects the lighting as well. And let's support this with some more area light. So let's press Shift A and let's create an area light. Press G and Z to move it up. And let's switch this to 3D cursor, press R twice to rotate it from the side here a little bit. So we have a nice backlight like this. Let's make it a little bit larger. We can make it strong, like 1500 or something like that. And let's bring it lower a little bit. And let's give this the warmer tone as well. And maybe we can bring it further away like this. Okay, and let's press Shift D and then RZ and rotate and create one on the other side. It will create these nice reflections, but this one can be colder a little bit, blue or something. Okay, maybe a little bit from top so we get this nice reflection here. And now let's go to the world settings and we can play with the lightness and with the color as well. So we fill the shadows with a little bit of that violet color. And now for the background, let's press Shift A and we'll add a point light. Let's press G then X and move it all the way here. And now let's go for something really strong, like 10K. and we'll get this nice halo effect in the back. We can bring it closer so it's sharper, and bring it up. And of course, here we can play with the color as well to create something like this. Now, if you want like a Starfield, let's press Shift A, let's add a cube, tap into the edit mode, press S to scale it down. Now, in the object mode, we can press G then X, move it back, make sure you switch back to medium point and make it larger. And now, let's add particle system to this, tab out, and first of all, let's make sure in the viewport display that we turn off the emitter and in the render settings as well. Now let's press Shift A and we'll add an icosphere again, but let's reduce the subdivisions to something like 2. And we can press G then Z and move it down, and press S to scale it down, right click and shade smooth. And let's just rename it to star. And now let's select the cube again, and in the particle system, for the frame start, let's hit 0, 0 for the end, lifetime of 240, same as the frames here. And for the physics, let's disable them. And for the source, let's choose volume, and let's choose render as object and choose star from the list. And now we can play with the scale, of course, and let's increase the scale randomness all the way to 1 so we get something like this here. Now we can make these smaller, of course. And if you select the star here in the outliner, you can add new material there, switch this to emission, and let's say something like 3. And of course, we can make them warmer a little bit as well. Okay, and now let's select the cube again. And in the particle settings, you can modify the number, or you can make it more dense, however you like it. So yeah, basically that's your cartoon stylized space animation. I really hope you enjoyed this one. And again, if you did, please leave that like. And if you're new around here, hit that subscribe. Thank you all for watching and have a wonderful day.